Good afternoon, everyone. Let me go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Sales Tax Subcommittee of the House Ways and Means Committee. Today we convene to hear testimony on two items, House Bill 1034 and House Bill 1187 before the subcommittee today. We have the room for three. We're going to take the testimony that we need. Don't feel like we have to stay till 3. But we want to give everybody time to work. I'll introduce each bill, and then we'll move on, give the author a brief opportunity to present the measure to the subcommittee time to ask questions and then take testimony today. The first one we want to get to is House Bill 1034. The Representative Weedauer, do you want to find the things that Representative Chairman Salmon Way is in your seat. What's which one? Yes, sir. You have before us HB 1034.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Make sure we're all LC 5069C. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1034, as we talked about last week, extends the exemption on the sales tax to non-recurring major sporting events. This dates back to back in 2016. This is basically a bargaining chip. I related it to a real estate transaction last week about, you're trying to sweeten your offer on the table to attract major sporting events, much like the Super Bowl, National Championship football game. This adds FIFA World Cup to that list of approved events. And it also extends the sunset of this, which would set to run out this year, and extends it to 2031. That is because we are already in the running for the 2029 Final Four. And obviously this is addressing the 2026 World Cup game. That's kind of a brief overview, but that's what it does. Obviously, it's a huge economic impact to the state of Georgia. FIFA World Cup, if we were to get some of the events that they're talking about, specifically their broadcasting abilities, this would be a 6-month investment into the city of Atlanta and bring hundreds of millions of dollars to the state. That's what it is in brief. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative Weedauer. Subcommittee have questions for the gentleman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative, again, for your work on this bill. You just mentioned the city of Atlanta, and I'm just curious to know, is there anyone here representing the city of Atlanta who has been a part of these discussions and with this legislation, since it's gone to impact Atlanta and the state of Georgia so well?
Yes, ma'am. Metro Atlanta Chamber is here, as well as the Chamber is supportive of this bill. The Georgia Chamber is supportive of this bill. As we talked last week, one of the unique things about the World Cup is it puts us on a world stage. There are events that surround it, that will spread out throughout the state. If, for instance, the games themselves last 35 days. So there's going to be some outreach into the other outlying areas so that people can, other communities around the state can actually feel the impact of this. They use FIFA World Cup uses this as an opportunity to try to spark more interest in soccer. It's obviously the world's most popular sport, but not necessarily in the state. So I think they're looking forward to having that opportunity as well. But yes, there are people that can speak to that as well. If you certainly, I know that. Not directly. Yes, ma'am, and I would be shocked if the mayor was not very excited about the possibility.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just offer the bill, my seatmate, and I know how passionate you are about this bill, and I know the great economic consequences it's going to have to people of the state of Georgia. I fully support the bill, but you've been so passionate about it, you throw around the acronym FIFA all the time. I just like for you to explain to us what the acronym translates as? What is it? Can you give us the,
I am really
All
excited
good.
about a bill you present in front of me next. It's gonna be great.
can you tell us what FEFA stands
I will
for?
let Nick Fernandez do that for me.
It's good for us. We're gonna let you hop out of that bed and football.
I think it's,
All right, you're excused. Nick Fernandez. Hope you had time to Google that.
Thank
Could you let us know who you are and who you're representing, and then he threw Chairman Williamson's question to you, so let's get to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members. My name is Nick Fernandez. I'm with the Metro Atlanta Chamber. FIFA does stand for Federation of International Football. Federation of International Football Association. He may be a little bit better at that than me. And then to Representative Bentley, to your question about the City of Atlanta. So historically, when we've moved from the bidding process to the host committees, the City of Atlanta, Department of Transportation, Planning have all been historically on our host committees and at the table when it comes to hosting these events. And so they've always had a seat at the table when it comes to logistics, when it comes to planning. They've certainly always been a great partner when hosting these events. So, and then just want to say thank you again to Representative Wiedauer. As mentioned, we are supportive of this. We house the Atlanta Sports Council within the chamber, who are led by Dan Corso, who goes out and actively recruits these events to the City of Atlanta, to the state of Georgia. We've had a successful run in the past, and we're looking at hopefully another successful run of events here in the future, including FIFA World Cup, and appreciate this committee's work.
Are there any questions for the gentleman? Any questions? Thanks very much. I see no one else signed up to testify. Anybody else? I did want to share.
No, I just know that we have had an initial hearing on this, so a lot of us have already heard about the return on this type of investment and the fact that this is an optional type of tool in the toolbox, if you will. So I just thought maybe we could get Nick or the author of the bill to mention what that return has looked like in the past and potentially what that could look like.
All right, we have a quorum, so we will go ahead and begin. I'd like to welcome everyone to the House Judiciary Committee for February 15th, 2022. It's 1:30 right now. And I want to begin by recognizing Judge Paget, who's with us today. It's great to see you, Judge. Thank you for being here. We have one addition for the amended agenda. It's HB 1321, which was on an earlier version of the agenda. So shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but we will be adding that back on today, and there's a substitute in the folders. All right, so at this point in time, we will go ahead and get started with the committee business, and the first bill I'll call is HB 1361. Representative Leverett, would you like to present your bill?
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity to bring this before you as part of my, I guess, my continuing campaign to handle bills that make the most dry technical changes imaginable. I'm glad to present you with this bill. This is actually a statute my father, I think, was involved in drafting when he was at the Attorney General's office, and he also was involved in some litigation over it at some point. But it's really just intended to clarify that the Attorney General has the authority to intervene to defend any kind of act of the General Assembly. So it's just sort of cleanup language that makes it clear that that authority is broad and encompasses any acts of the General Assembly. And of course, it doesn't compel the Attorney General to do anything, but it does at least make it clear that the Attorney General can take action if the Attorney General deems it to be appropriate. So it just amends 9-4-7, an existing statute that gives that authorization, and it's just to make it clear that it's very broad authority.
Any questions for Mr. Leverett? All right, hearing none, I'll hear a motion. All right, there's a motion and a second. This is House Bill 1361 as introduced, LC 365144. It's a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, it passes unanimously. And if you're online and you want to make sure that we record your vote, you're welcome to put it in the comments, but otherwise we'll just plan for you to voice it out loud when the question's called. All right, so 1361 is on to Rules Committee. All right. Next bill I'll call is House Bill 1294. Representative Corbett. Chairman Corbett, if you'd like to come on up and present your bill, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Bring before you today House Bill 1294, LC 39320. Is that the LC number everybody has? All right.
Yes, sir. I actually wasn't looking at when he said it. The bill is introduced, right?
Yeah, the bill is
Okay.
introduced.
All right.
You know,
Yeah.
And what brought this about 3 years ago, we passed a bill dealing with abandoned mobile homes. There was nothing in code to be able for a landowner to be able to either dispose of it or file a lien against it or dispose of it. So we passed the bill, and once we gave the ability for the governing agent to determine if it's derelict where it can be disposed of, they have to post a notice on the mobile home, and in the bill, it said the same day. So a local tax commissioner has come to, they're having trouble being able to get out there and post a notice on the same day. So they requested, give them 3 days to post a notice once they receive the determination that the mobile home is derelict. And that's all the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
All right. You have a question. Number 14.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you, Chairman Corbett. Now, these aren't the trailers that have the polyester curtains and the redwood deck with it.
Well, and probably shag carpet in some of them.
Okay, just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, sir. There is no one signed up to speak on this bill. So at this point, I'll take a motion. All right, there's a motion to pass in second House Bill 1294 LC 393220. This bill is introduced, and we have some discussion. Number 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got to talk to the bill's author offline, but I think I'm definitely in support of this bill. Thank you for bringing it, Mr. Corbett, or Chairman Corbett. I just wanted to throw that in there, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of House Bill 1294 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it passes unanimously. On to rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And please share, Chairman Corbett, Judiciary is not that scary of a place to come present
No,
a bill.
it is not. I tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed the last time. I spent 2 years in here with this bill. So, so I thoroughly enjoyed this time.
Well, we like seeing you. Next bill we'll call is House Bill 1088, and I'll call on Chairman Gunner to present his substitute. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, coming out of the subcommittee, the only difference that you have in front of you today from the subcommittee is on page 2, lines 24 and 25 were added in. And at line 35 through 37, the language was added in there. Basically, what this language does is it addresses where if there's a lien holder, like a bank that financed it, that they have priority and that they get notice. And that's basically what the provisions do. And that's the only difference from what we had presented before.
All right, Chairman Scoggins, what was this came out of your subcommittee, correct?
Came out of my subcommittee, and it was a due pass. We vetted the bill, and
Thank you for bringing that, Representative Gunner.
Thank you. And these changes were made in response to the banking community asking us to do that.
All right, we're talking about a non-judicial foreclosure as it relates to a timeshare. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
All right. All right, any questions for the sponsor? All right, seeing none, I'll hear a motion. All right, motion to pass and second on HB 1088 LC 441956S, the substitute. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. It passes. It is on to rules. All right, we'll next call HB 974. Representative Gullett, if you'd like to come on up. And when you're ready, please go ahead and present the substitute.
Thank you. Thank you. This is LC 441975S. This committee substitute. We've talked about this bill a few different times in committee, and subcommittee, and then last time in committee. It brought it back from rules. The change is really on line 51 through 54. And what this does, it still requires the clerks to accept e-filings, but this will also still will allow someone to go to the courthouse and file with the clerk any of these documents directly at the courthouse. And no other changes were made to it.
Are any questions for the sponsor? The Superior Court clerks want to weigh in about this amendment. I'll see a thumbs up. Yes, sir. If you'd like to come forward, Mr. Allen, just so folks online can hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Yes, we fully support this change, and we believe it's better for everyone.
All right, great. All right, well, I appreciate all the folks involved working out a compromise to address the questions raised that we discussed last time in committee, and I don't see any questions, so I'll hear a motion. There's a move do pass and a second on substitute to HB 974 LC 441975S. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously.
Thank you all for your work.
Back to rules. All right, we have next up, we'll hear House Bill 1321, Chairman Burchett's substitute. And I'll go and recognize the chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members. I have before you House Bill 1321 LC 441974S. What this bill is a provision that has come out of the National Opioid Litigation Settlement. Georgia has joined in to that litigation and in the settlement, both the state of Georgia and as I'm told by the AG's office, 98% of our political subdivisions have joined in. What this bill does is this prevents litigation when these elements are met, when the state of Georgia enters into a settlement agreement. It's in regards to opioid litigation. It allows for political subdivisions to join in that settlement, and there is an MOU. In that case, litigation will be barred in opioid type scenario. That's what the bill does. It's being supported by obviously the AG, but also GMA and ACCG, and that's the crux of the bill. Mr. Chairman, I can go further in if you'd like me to.
All right, well, let's first see if there are any questions. Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Holcomb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, isn't it true that there will be a fiscal impact from some of these settlements towards the state budget?
Yes, sir. I appreciate you asking that, Representative Holcomb. So as part of the settlement agreement, it's a $450 million settlement agreement to the state of Georgia without the passage of a litigation bar. With the passage of a litigation bar, there's an additional $150 million, of which $88 million will come immediately from Johnson & Johnson.
Any follow-up?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, number 12.
Thank you. You know, these settlement agreements, the only time I know anything about them is when I read them in the business section of the newspaper. And I'm a appropriations committee member, and I ask frequently, where's this money going and how are we using it? And I don't know the details of this settlement, but do you know that this $600 million is going to be designated for substance abuse treatment or not?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for asking that question. That's a great question. The monies from this settlement can only be used for the mitigation of the opioid pandemic. It's going to be left to the will of the legislature to determine what that is.
What's our status on determining what that is? Because the mental health bill has a lot of financial issues to it that we're trying to explore and understand thoroughly. And this would be $600 million is a lot of money for the purpose of effectuating that bill,
Well,
1013.
I agree. We don't have the money yet, so I don't think that we should, appropriate till we have the money, but I'm certainly willing to go down that road with you when we do get the money.
I look forward to that conversation because typically these settlements come in, do not have a designated, for instance, the tobacco settlement. I've never felt completely happy with how we spend that money, and there's been no guidelines for us. So I look forward to that discussion.
Well, in the process of going through the language of this bill and the redrafts, the tobacco settlement has come up many times. I wasn't around for the tobacco settlement, so I don't know the particulars of that. I know that this money can only be used for the mitigation of the opioid pandemic. Now, that is a broad statement, right? So we do have to get into the details and determine what that means and for each individual party.
Well, if I'm around, I hope I remember this discussion and can bring that into our subcommittee of appropriations where this money will go, allegedly based on this bill.
Very good.
Any other questions? I don't see any other questions. I hear a motion. There's a motion to pass and a second on the committee substitute to House Bill 1321 LC 441974S. Any further discussion? Oh, okay. We have somebody who's you want to speak on the bill? Yeah. Okay.
I just want to make sure, I apologize. I just want to make sure that the substitute includes the language agreed to by the AG's office with regard to Cobb County.
So it's my understanding that it does. If you'd like to take a look.
I certainly trust you, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman. I just wanted it to verify. Thank you.
All right, let's just suspend for a couple of minutes.
That's great. I see it.
All right, very good.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Good question. And we all want to make sure we have a chance to review the substitute. So I appreciate the question. All right, so now that we've confirmed that that's part of the substitute bill as before us, we're now in a posture to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, very good. The bill passes unanimously. It's on to Judiciary. All right, final legislation. I'm sorry, on to rules. Excuse me. Thank you. Final item on our agenda is HR 707. Chairman Werkheiser, if you'd like to come up, we will recognize you. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I've got House Resolution 707. It is the second version, but the first version that this committee should be seeing, which is LC 480527. It is a study committee on, a House study committee on homicide code
All right.
case.
If you can hold for just a
Okay.
minute, we don't have 2-7. We have 4-5,
I sent it
4-8
this morning.
in the,
480527.
no, I have 480548S.
Okay. You've got the correct version. I don't, because yours is later. It's not on the website. I didn't even bring it because it was so simple.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
480548 substitute. So my involvement became with two families, one from a 30-year-old case in Hazelhurst, Ms. Coleman, and then Tara Baker, who's actually a classmate of Sarah Evans 20 years ago, a first-year law student in Athens. When Vic Reynolds came on board after being appointed by Governor Kemp, one of the first things he did was create a homicide code case with some retired investigators. It's been very successful. And then since dropping this bill, I've heard from PAC and Gacto and other folks who would like to have input. And so we'll discuss how the study committee would be made up. But really just trying to figure out, I don't have the answers. I am truly looking for solutions to how we can scale and help the GBI with some of these cold cases. Because as you can imagine, the pain these families went through and then not to get any resolution.
Any questions for the sponsor? Representative Holcomb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you bringing this bill, and it brings to light something that I've been interested in for a while, and just wonder if it might be part of what you focus on, and that's the preservation of evidence long-term, particularly that which involves DNA, which would likely be involved in a murder case. Also applies to other types of crimes too. Do you envision this having that scope of potentially looking at that as well?
Absolutely. And I thought of you when I was thinking about this, because if you can imagine 20 and 30 years ago, they may have collected some DNA, but there was really no way to sufficiently test it, which, as you know, we can do that now. And I think that's going to be a vital link. And then to the portion of which you and I worked on, and as we process kits, rape kits, and collect even more DNA, I think they could absolutely provide a link to this.
Okay, thank you. Representative Smith. Oh, Representative Gunner.
Your bill is more about the process of looking at cold cases and not cold cases in particular. You're not counting the number of cases or any of that kind of thing.
No, it's trying to solve the current load of cases that are obviously constantly growing.
Okay. By looking at the processes,
Well, not only the processes, but the actual resources, because is it something we could do in appropriations or other means? Could we use, could the GBI work in concert with other groups who have experience? Like I said, I really don't have the answers. I'm truly looking forward. But most it's either resources or trying to expand the scope of what we're currently doing.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I want to commend you, Chairman Werkheiser, for being a champion on this issue, really wanting to focus attention here and be your willingness to step forward and propose this resolution. I want to commend you for your efforts. I don't see any other questions. We do have one other witness signed or late request for a witness, which is Ms. Jill Travis. Is she? Oh, I see Jill. You'd like to come forward?
Good
Go
afternoon,
ahead.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for accommodating me. Really, I just wanted to publicly thank Chairman Werkheiser for putting in the changes to the bill that allows the speaker to make the appointments to the committee. The original version of the bill seemed very tainted in the direction of just law enforcement. And while law enforcement does have a great deal of role to play in cold cases, there's something that the defense lawyer can offer as well. And we hope that the speaker will keep that in mind in making the appointments. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Travis? All right, thank you so much for being here. All right, with no one else signed up to speak and no other questions, I'll hear a motion. The motion to pass in second on HR 707 LC 480548S. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, very good. The resolution is on to rules. Okay, so for scheduling, we have a full committee set for tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the morning. That will be in person or virtual. And we may be adding some additional bills onto the agenda. So if you'll just check the agenda later today so you can track what's coming, we'd appreciate it. And then also, I expect, subject to change, but I expect we will have the Gunner Subcommittee on Thursday at 1:30, taking up 4 bills. And that agenda should be out later today as well. So everyone can anticipate what's coming. So, all right, very good. Well, we're finished for today. Thank you so much. We're adjourned.